Well, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to resist. I've got a couple folks with me here tonight, and I've got a few more people coming here shortly that are going to participate in today's presentation and status update. So go ahead and sit back and enjoy.
Okay, YouTube, he's back. The Sharpie of Resistance is back. He sent something, which was like a part two of part two, the second half of part two, and it was too much. I wanted to kind of explain it here as we go into part three. And guys, it starts to become more and more implausible to not believe what he's saying and to not see the proof and to not see the steps that he's laying out happening in front of our eyes than it is to see them, right? It's impossible to not see them. So real quickly, history. He told us what he believes makes Elon tick. And coming from an apartheid state, as that was getting dismantled, as the rules of engagement, the rules of life itself, where he comes from, where segregation is normal and there are those who are just better because they are, was beginning to get dismantled. You even see now he's advocating to bring white South Africans as refugees here because it's just so horrible for them not to be in charge anymore, for land that they stole to be given back. Right? He doesn't understand that idea. And not as if many here do either, but at least we have a tradition of, for so long in this country, giving more rights instead of taking rights away until recently. He wants to develop a way where segregation of the classes is normal. He wants to dismantle the government that we have to get the government he wants, called the network state. And we're going to get more into that. The main problem is, and he's going to just give us a little explanation, Elon can't do that because he's still not the smartest. He's still not number one. He's still not in charge. He's not all powerful. There are governments, more than one, controlled by people. So until he can get that, he's still limited, and his play is to try to get that. And I just let him explain a little bit here.
And the perception isn't quite yet that he's genius, but he likes that idea. He can create that image, and he's trying to do that, but he's kind of limited in a lot of ways because he's not really number one, no matter what he tries to do. He's always going to be subject to laws in other countries and rules because people like to protect themselves. You know, they collectively or individually may not be smarter than said person, but they do have a voice and they do want to be treated a certain way, and that volume of people has definite weight. But to him, this is unacceptable for the smartest man in the world, of course, right?
There it is. Plain English, but distorted. I hope you can understand it. I'm trying to help explain for those who don't understand. So what's the plan? How do you get around that? Well, he found this book. We mentioned it briefly in the part one. I'll let him explain a little bit more, but it's the new plan. This book, the step-by-step instructions on exactly how to go about this new segregated era. Here it is.
Doing this because they were very successful at a lot of things. So in comes Balaji. Balaji Srinivasan is a professor that wrote a book called The Network State. And this book talks about how it's basically the CEO's handbook of how to take over the world. Like how you break down countries, governments, how do you take over countries one at a time, break down at borders, and create what they call a network state, which is a way to separate everybody, idea. And he created these nodes of people that are supportive of what he's doing. Like here's one here, Refi. This is a couple of years ago, they had 125,000 members there. And there's a lot of different nodes that come together that he's built going around doing these conferences. And it's super, super, like, I'm not like Mormon or anything like that. I'm not against any of those types of religions or anything, but they can be kind of pushy, and this stuff is. But from a nerdy perspective of the idea that we're in this, they're trying to make you believe that we're in this moment where we can create this new government, new world, and everybody can have this dream community of other people just like them, and all the sweet talking. And really, what he's talking about is segregation. To be clear, folks from India have a caste system. There's the rich, the poor, the very poor, the extremely poor, and there's like the nobodies. I think they call them the nothings. And for any of those lower castes to do better than you is just the biggest insult, because it's not well known, but that's the mentality of a lot of folks. That people just belong at certain levels, and et cetera, et cetera. So he has a like mind with our anti-hero. Another thing to notice too is that they had all of these different pundits that were doing these different promotions. A lot of these folks are starting to show up now from in the walls out of nowhere. Before the election, who had heard of network state? What's going on? Well, they need people to explain this stuff, because a big part of this particular stage we're in right now is to be able to dilute the message, get people kind of half sold on the idea of giving up certain things, so that as they take rights, it dampens the resistance and makes it easier, and it delays the amount of time for people to build up the momentum to rise and slow, as I mentioned, the first out the gate plan, right? So this week, the forces of evil have continued the progress in Take the Land, chapter 4 in the overall master plan of how to conquer America and conquer the world. So, as we know from previous episodes, step 1 is complete. We now have founded a society online, build trust offline, and Bitcoin. This is complete. The Bitcoin has been backed. It's not been allowed to fall, so people will now build trust. They're going to lean into this, and those that have read the book understand what the next step are, and this needs to be ready for that particular step. So this is done. Create general and unifying goals. This work has been done too. So, global warming, Nazism, white supremacism, MAGA, DEI, all those kind of things, right? That stuff's done. Got people running every way we want. It's like a magic wand.
And here he gets into something that I've always struggled with. I liked Elon. I thought he was one of the good guys. He was out here giving away patents for free on electric cars once he had a new one. We cared about the earth. He cared about things that I care about, even space travel. It turns out I was just supposed to. It's a part of the plan. I can't explain any further than that. I'll let him do it. But I struggled with that. And maybe if you did, this will help you.
So you say, wait, man, not Mr. Elon. This guy, he's trying to save the planet, he's sending in armadas of electric cars to save the world. Those guys are like, yeah, but what is he doing, with racist people and whatnot? Isn't he like going to save the planet? We're going to dodge meteors, and go to Mars and all this stuff. And, people are excited about that. All the space nerds getting on board, NASA, everybody. And here's Elon collecting all these people, right? He's just collecting all different types. They don't have to like each other. They just need to like him. All right. Pretty amazing. And it's actually a well-known tactic. We see this association, with all these folks. They're confused too, like what the hell, why is Elon messing with all the greenie pants over there and all the space nerds? Let's go. We like to hate people and stuff. And, maybe they can kind of get along, but he's aligning himself with all these really dark folks as well. And some really dumb folks too that, have their own representation that they need to perform. So what do all these guys have together in common? Well, that's Elon, of course. I've already kind of pointed that out. But what he's doing here, he's just taking all these different people's personalities, right? And figuring out common things between all of them in order to kind of unify them. And what we kind of call unifying messages. It's a real thing, the power of symbolism. There's like white supremacism, got Nazism, the idea of Mars, global warming. You can gather clusters of people together under those things. And you create unifying messages, right? Sig Heil and white power and, save the world and search for aliens, right? And so you can use that for anything. You can say, we're going to fight corruption. You can just bucket anything you want under that, and you can get everybody lined up under this simple word, and you can create kind of unifying goals that you're going to do with the people that you've clustered, right? So these people have been motivated under a unifying goal to take action. You can use it for DEI. You can use it for gays and LGBTQs and all of that stuff. You can cluster people, under all of that. You can also do it for other things like this, the network state. The network state is kind of a cult of tech folks that run around on the community, run around campus, trying to recruit people into this vision. And they're kind of the open secret. And looking for folks that have the ability to help them implement things. So they went around campus trying to do that. Balaji was pretty credible with an army of folks. He's obviously super well funded. We saw additional kind of unification stuff here. Really what this wasn't a fuck you or sick Heil. It was a challenge and a threat. Because in a sense, now that he's won capitalism and he's taken over America and is implementing the network state, as you'll see here, he owns us. Come and beat him at this game or die. He's not going to take the bullshit that he's not the best anymore. He's going to make it his world where he's either loved or he's going to make people love him, in a sense. Not so much in so many words, but you'll see the ability that he has to actually make that happen. And also at the same time, achieve the most Chad gaming crown you could ever possibly have. And now I'll be showing you how, because Mr. Balaji is very, very smart with how he marketed this whole thing. He gamifies world domination and creates a simple way to score, a simple path to get there. And as you can see so far, it's super, super effective. And they're not the only ones that use symbolism, right? We have our own. And these have worked for us in the past, all right? People understand what that means, right? Liberty and justice for all. This is the antithesis to what they're saying. And we may be able to find those as spears in our shed ready to use because they are very powerful unifying messages that we can return the favor with at come the time. And I think that time is now. So let's get a little bit further into the details.
He needed a plan. He started with step one, create the online community. Gaming, where it started, and now as we see, X. Once he bought that $40 million investment that he's losing money on every day, now we understand it was well worth the cost. He has gained the largest online community that he is in control of. But YouTube, if it just stops there, it wouldn't be on here. Again, I promise you, if it just stops there, it wouldn't be on here. That's not proof. That's not even a plan. The craziest part about all of this is the steps that he needs to follow, we're now seeing are being followed in real time. We can now look at it. So that's the next part he's going to show you. And this book is what lays that plan out. We're seeing it followed in real time. And now it's on this channel because you can't unsee it once you do. Check it out.
So step 4 in our plan, not our plan, Balaji's plan, but ours to review, is called Take the Land. That means they got to kind of move from this virtual world and actually take the land to implement this plan. So we are well into step 4 now. And in the early stages of step 4, you need an election, preferably in the most powerful country that you can take over. Because what you're going for, and we'll get into this later on, is called an inheritance advantage. So step 1 of chapter 4 is complete. We're into step 2. It's called self-coup. I think that we all see it. Folks shouldn't be part of what they're doing is, or completely what they're doing is covering what they're doing by attacking everywhere at the same time. But you're seeing some of the legislation being lined up right now, and you see their attitudes towards the courts, all that stuff. That's all coming. So the self-coup is coming. Really close to it right now. There's additional steps for this particular plan that are coming up next. It's super advantageous for us to actually have a copy to be able to get ahead of it and slow it down because this is an extremely, extremely dangerous time we are in right now. In this particular portion of the plan, this is where the rubber meets the road. Either people stop it, or we could very easily end up in a situation where it takes a half a century and a couple generations to free ourselves of it.
It's a lot. Rewind it. Watch it again. Check it out. There's another question. How does this relate to Russia? We know that they're the big player. We know that that's who has been behind a lot of the moves. The craziest part is this book that we thought was written by one person may have actually been even a part of that plan. It's diabolical. I'm telling you, it's hyperbolic. It's weird, but you just can't deny what he's saying. Check it out.
I think it's written by maybe a collective of different folks. from the academic communities in Russia. And I say that because as you're looking through the chapters or sections within this plan, it references it references the U.S. as the enemy. USSR is kind of the ideality. Every reference it makes to people in history within this is mostly political figures or historians within Russia. And so in my book, this is written also with folks that are from Russia, most likely. Things that the raid on Vilnius Tower comes to mind, and a lot of different things that folks here in the United States would just never have any kind of understanding of. America's new glasnost, cryptocurrency is America's perestroika. We don't know this stuff. But this is being pawned off as this Indian author's book. So what I'm saying there is when you look between the lines, there's hints at where a lot of this plan came from. So that's what I think is going on there, but I'm just guessing only based off just what I can see in all the notes and everything in here that I believe it's a collective of a few different things and then became this instruction manual. But what it asks you to do in here, especially when you hit the stage 4, is an auto coup, right? And how do you actually do this? You have to get into the position to do an auto coup. It gives you instructions on how to win the election, what to do specifically, how to throw it, and what you do once you get in there to do the auto coup. It's a step-by-step plan, and all that's in here. I mean, it literally is step-by-step, and he's following it by the book. And what you're ultimately going to end up with is something called the network state. So, we took a moment there, we looked at what Balaji's plan is. It definitely is very clear in the initial portion exactly what are the steps, and when you look at the book, you'll figure out very quickly we're right at the very early parts of this particular stage, and we've already lost the election and the coup is in process. There's a lot of things that are missing from their plan, and that's the randomness of us. Of course, it doesn't have things like choice and offline, and the fact that folks can be really aware if they actually know this bigger plan, then we can actually get ahead of it and step ahead of it and take actions to slow it down and resist. And of course, the requirements of this plan requires the most powerful people in the world. We know how that got put together and sold to those folks. So, here they are. They've got their plan. They got the cloud around the world. The network crosses all borders. They own the company, et cetera, et cetera. All the precursors are in place. I'm moving very quickly because I know we're going to run out of time. So you must be wondering more about what is the network state? What does that really mean? Is it bad? Well, I want to know what it is. Well, that's what we're going to do for the next episode.
That was long. Rewind it. Check it out. It's intriguing. I don't know how to say that it's wrong. I don't know how to disprove any of this, because everywhere I've looked and everything that I see that he says is happening or going to happen and has predicted from before when we were first talking, it continues to be the case. The only thing I can say is, in order for this to happen, Elon would have to be the only hand wielding the hammer. The hammer is Trump. He is not. Those who did Project 2025 have a different agenda. Theirs is just as diabolical, but has nothing to do with the network state. I don't believe. Another part of that is, like all megalomaniacs, they underestimate the X factor. That's us. You see, nothing stays hidden forever. That's why I don't believe in conspiracy theories, because it always gets out. The reaction may be different, but it is unpredictable. We are the X factor. We're the thing that they're trying to get around, both sides of the party. And there's more. There's other oligarchs who have nothing to do with the network state. Eventually it will congeal, though, so our time is limited. But he's not all powerful, he's not all knowing, and he is not the only hand. The best thing we have going for us is that each one of these selfish hands, either Christo nationalism, network state, computer segregation, whatever, which we'll learn more on the next one, or straight up greed and narcissism by those who don't care about either one of those two. All three of them have their hands in the pot and makes them fractured and incompetent. They're competent in getting rid of people really fast, incompetent in executing the next stages of their plan, where we come in, where we fight monetarily, where we fight in the streets, where we fight online, information, with education. You can join me in that fight. You can join the Sons of Liberty Discord channel. You can go to Sons of Liberty Official right here on YouTube, and they'll have it right there in every comment section how to get there. If you want to do something different, a little more behind the scenes, Drill Sergeant, well, we got a special ops. Email me, politicaldrain@gmail.com. Get the instructions, get vetted thoroughly. If you're willing to do that, we have things that we're doing that are less YouTube friendly, but still above board, still legal. So get off me, FBI. And then there's Indivisible. There's the people fighting in the streets, doing boycotts. All of that is necessary. Pick your fight. And then fight. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Follow us on all these things you see here, and our link tree is in the description. Maybe even get some merch.